Today is September 1st, 2016. My name is John Rodriguez, a volunteer with the Hanford branch of the Kings County Library Volunteer History Project. Would you please state your full name?
Arzie, middle name, Robert Neighbors.
Okay, and where are you from, Mr. Neighbors?
Well, I was born in Oklahoma, but I moved out here whenever I was 16. And my folks farmed out here. So I come from a farming family.
And that's what they did.
Mm-hmm.
They farmed. Mm-hmm. And they were transplants from Oklahoma, and they came
Right.
down here.
In fact, I even started after I got out of the service, but it didn't work out because where I lived there, Carruthers, was wind, and he blowed my crops out about 3 different times a year while I lived there.
And what year was that, or what time period was that?
That's when I got out of the service. I farmed for about 5 years, 6 years, and then I quit, and I went to work for the government then. And I worked at 2 different bases.
Okay. Did you have any siblings?
Do I?
Do you have any brothers or sisters?
I have only one living brother. All of my brothers and sisters are dead.
Mm-hmm. And how old is your brother?
Oh, I had, there was 8 of us kids.
Mm.
2 girls and all boys.
And all boys. Your mother had her hands full.
Yeah, the
didn't
boys dominated the fight.
Did any of them serve?
Pardon?
Did any of them serve in the armed forces? Did any of your brothers serve in the military?
Just about all of them. All of my brothers served but 2. Out of the 8 children, only 2 of them. And the daughters, their husbands were military too. So you see, we furnished a lot of artillery for the government.
Yes. And you farmed before serving.
Only for 6 years, 5 years. 5 years was what it was. And the wind blew me out, and so I just got out of the farming.
And what branch did you serve in?
The Army. I framed as a regular Army employee, and I didn't go overseas until for 2 years. They sent me to Hawaii, and I worked in an office there, delivering for the government.
Were you drafted or enlisted?
I was drafted, but my work as a military was all handled with the government.
And what year was that?
That was 1940. It's been so long I forgot. 41 or 42 to 45 or 46. I think that's the way it would read.
And it was Army, correct?
Pardon?
You were in the Army?
I was in the Army, yeah.
And how was the boot camp experience? How was boot camp?
Well, it was all right, but I only served just long enough to be part of the military, you know. Military training, one thing, and another. That's what the boot camp, they call it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I was assigned to the General Service Office. I believe it was the name of it. Anyway, they were all high-class military officers, colonels, and I drove for colonels. They liked me, my work, and I was at their command. Wherever they needed me, I had to go, you know.
Do you remember any particular drill instructors or
Oh, we'd go to different islands. If one of the officers had some sort of an inspection tour of the one of the islands, well, I would go along and drive for them, and one thing or another like that. That I went through 1, 2, 3 or 4 islands that I had traveled with the officers.
Let's talk a little bit about military life and adjusting to it. You came from a farming background, so how was going into the military? What kind of
Well, to become part of the military, you had to listen to the boot camp. The guys there, what do you call the men that are served, not officers. I had lots of
drill
lots of
instructors
instruction from them. They used to call us a lot of names.
and most of them not nice.
Not nice, yeah.
And how was adjusting to military life? Was it?
Well, after I finished training, and I was transferred out to Hawaii. That's where I received the best jobs that I had, was right there on the island of Hawaii. And I got to travel with the officers. I'd go in with them to drive and one thing and another. So I was well suited all the way along after I left boot camp.
I imagine that climate was beautiful compared to this valley.
Oh, it was beautiful.
weather.
I loved the Hawaiian Islands. It was beautiful. In fact, all of the islands, but the main island that I enjoyed most was the main island there, Hawaii.
Beautiful. What did you do on leave? When you had
On leave?
on leave, yes.
Well, I've never have been a drinking man, so booze wasn't one of my problems. If anything came up that needed some extra help, I would always volunteer for it because it gave me something to do. And in the military, when you're serving the military, you need to keep your mind busy. And on the job, if you don't, you let...
Yeah, you need to stay sharp.
That's the quickest way in the world to get picked up for boozing.
Could lead to trouble, I
Yeah.
see. Did you have any specialized training? Did you have any particular training that you were given, or instruction?
Well, I drove heavy equipment for the Army before I went overseas. And we would load up other soldiers who finished their training.
And you went overseas. Where is it you went?
When I was drafted and went to Hawaii, see, I didn't know where I was going.
Oh, okay.
And Hawaii was a good boot training for overseas. And they taught a lot of the military over on the North Island. That's one of the finishing trips there on the island before they went into a regular unit.
And you deployed after the attack on Pearl Harbor, correct?
Pardon?
You went into the service after the attack on Pearl Harbor.
Oh, no, I was there.
Oh, you were there?
See, I was assigned to the islands. I was there when they in fact, our ship laid off sea while the attack was taking place.
Wow.
The ship that we were on.
So you were there. That was December 7th.
Yeah. And after when we landed, well, then we could see all the damage that they done to when they were coming. But they got a licking good after they thought they had a free job when they came in there on Hawaii, but the military really changed their tune a lot because they really lost a lot of flyers. The Japanese did.
That that sounds like it would be stressful as well. What were some of the stresses?
Well, it was.
that
It
you
was
had?
they did the first 2 or 3 rounds. They did a lot of damage, but after that, then they got enough help to help them. Well, it stopped, and they retreated from the island.
And how did that experience affect you?
Well, I was glad it was over with, because it made the islands were beautiful, a beautiful place to live.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to make it their home, that would be a good place. But home to me was back in the States.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about your friends in the military there.
In the military, I had you acquire real close friends are easy, people you can really depend upon, because there's a lot of difference in a military man, what kind of a training they had when they were growing up and after they went into the service too, because a lot of times it's so easy to get a boot head.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so was not what you wanted for a partner.
Right. I'm sorry, did you stay in contact with them? Did you stay in contact with them after?
Oh, no. After the service went farther south, we were eliminated there and away from all of that. Just the ships would go out to sea, the combat ships. And so I had no contact with any of that.
Mm.
The only ones that I would see would be when the troop ships would come in with the wounded.
Mm.
And I hate to tell you, it'd make your heart bleed. Those poor kids. Some were hauled off. Some walked off. But our troops were the best. They stood there and they really did took the Jap downstream.
They were tough men.
They sure did.
How did you stay in contact with friends and family while you were over there?
When I gave up contact with the islands entirely,
Mm-hmm.
when I left to go back home, because I was a farmer at heart, and I had nothing on my mind except farming. I told my dad when I got back to the States, one of the first thing I wanted to do was to go to farming.
You wanted to get your hands back in that dirt.
Get my hands in the dirt.
Were you awarded any medals or citations?
Just regular routine work, citation.
If there is such a thing. I mean,
Yeah.
don't sell yourself short. You did a job.
But I had forced. No, I had. The only combat that we'll ever see was when when the Japanese left. The damage that they had done. It's the only thing that we saw, and they did a lot of it on Pearl Harbor.
Mm. And you've not been back since?
Oh, when I left the islands,
That was it.
that was it.
Do you recall the day that your service ended? Do you remember the day your service ended? You were done?
When I resigned, oh yes, that was a good day.
What year was that?
It was December, the last of December, when they lined everybody up that was being discharged and give us the
walking
last thing
papers.
we received, and that was a goodbye.
How was it? How was that for
Well,
you?
I was ready to go home. I really was, because I'm a farmer at heart, and that's where I wanted to live, was on the farm.
So you were back home when the war ended?
When the war ended, I was back home. I was right there. They had already shipped us, a big lot of us had gone home. And so being part of the military really was an experience for me. I met lots of people in there, and I'll tell you what, I got a lot of respect for the military. There's nothing that we have that we got the best military that there is anywhere. And I tell you what, my hat goes off to the boys that puts the uniform on and follows it. I'll tell you, I got all the respect in the world for all.
And it sounds like, from what you said, that you had no problem adjusting to civilian life after.
No, I didn't, because you can't follow a plow. And the team at South Farm with horses when I first come out of this, because we still had a lot of horses to use.
Mm-hmm.
And get behind an angry old mule, you're going to learn a lot of things.
What was the reception at home? How were you received at home when you came back?
Oh, I tell you that we got the best welcome anybody would want. Oh, I'll tell you what, I'll remember that duty, that day whenever they lined us up and said, "This is it."
Mm-hmm.
And that was the best thing that ever happened to me, was hand me my discharge paper.
And you got to go back home to that good home cooking.
I got to go back home to farming.
Yeah, farming. It sounds like that's your love.
Yeah,
your passion there.
I got to do what I was raised up to do, is farm.
Did you continue your education in any way?
No, I
with the
didn't.
GI Bill.
I was after. I did some work while I was in the service, but your job mainly was do what you were told to do, and not what you could do. But there was a lot of opportunities for further training if you wanted to take it, but you never did really have the time, I think, a lot of it, because, when you moved around a lot by the government, it doesn't leave a lot of open room for you.
Right. Have you attended any reunions, or are you involved in any sort of military ceremonies, like with the VFW or anything like that?
No, I was, when I got out of the service, I went out of it.
You just left it
That
where it was.
I don't go to anything or anything.
Well, how would you say that it affected your life?
Well, the main thing that I can give them credit for is that I learned how to stand on my own feet, because that's one of the first things that they trained a soldier, was to be independent.
It's a good lesson there to learn, isn't it?
Pardon?
It's a good lesson to learn, isn't it?
Yes. Well, you learn what you wanted to. I've seen guys that all they wanted was a beer bottle or whatever, but I'm not a drinking man, and so therefore none of that stuff appealed to me. And I didn't drink any. When I got out of the service, I met a little girl that we married. Neither one of us drank, so that was wasn't no liquor in our home at all.
That was never an issue, never a problem.
I was never worried about it.
How long were you married? Let's start there.
How long was I married?
Yes.
Oh, when she passed away, I think we'd been married about 50 years.
Wow.
Yeah, somewhere in the neighborhood.
And how many children did you have?
We had 3 children.
Did any of them serve in the service?
So a lot of my brothers, not my own children, served in the service, but of my brothers, I think out of the count the son-in-laws and my brothers, there must have been at least 12 or 13 of us served in the service during World War I, World War II.
Well, let me ask you this: how have these experiences impacted your outlook on war?
Well, the main thing that I learned from it is don't fool with the United States Navy. You're going to get your rear end kicked, but good. And I was part of that.
Mm-hmm.
So all I can say is I'm proud of the U.S. Army. I said Army because it's all I ever knew was the Army.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Future generations are going to see this interview. What would you like them to know?
Well, one of the main things is if you're going to be a part of the military, you apply yourself to whatever job that they assign you to, learn it. Make sure that you understand what they're teaching you. Because if you do a job and do it well, you'll come out on top.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Pardon?
Is there anything else you'd like to add to your interview?
Oh, not really. I am proud that I was able to serve my time that I served in the Army, because it made a older, stronger man, and I was able to do what I wanted to do in life, and it made me more conscious of what we need a good service for, is because we will always need a good Army to back up what we need.
Right. Right. And it sounds like that you had a good positive experience.
I do. I'm a little actually I'm a pro-American. I'm very strong American, an American military. I think we got the finest Army in the world, is the United States.
Yes, agreed. Absolutely. And so you didn't. You said you had brothers that served.
I had one.
You had brothers that served as well.
Oh, let's see. I had 6 brothers and about that many and about 4 brother-in-laws. All served in the military.
Were they all in the Army?
All of they served overseas and everywhere. In fact, the neighbor's children was the most. In fact, when we were growing up and older, they said, "Well, kid, don't you remember when we was over there?" Yes, I remember. They each could remember back where they could say, "I was there."
Right. They remember where they were.
Were there.
Where they were stationed.
The service was there. We were there. Part of the Army was there. We was always had some neighbors somewhere mixed up in it.
Mm-hmm. Did your father serve?
My father didn't.
No.
He was too old for to be in the service then. His children are all the ones that served in the military.
So were you the first generation to serve in the service?
And as far as I'm a record of, yes.
Excellent. Can you think of anything else that you'd like to speak about?
The only thing that I can think of would be your standard of living as a man or a woman is if you'll keep your life clean and honest, you can go anywhere you want to go in the military because they're there for you and they would help you. As far as I'm concerned, the U.S. military is the best place in the service that you could be would be the U.S. Army or the Marines, whatever one that you're in.
As long as you apply yourself.
I am pro-American.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for
Well, you're welcome.
taking your
Glad
time.
that I could assist you in any way that you.
And above all, thank you for your service to the country.
Well, thank you, and we appreciate it because I'm proud to say I was part of the U.S. And they are American forces. I won't say which one, but I was Army.
Right.
I was Army from the very start, and that's why I retired was Army.
Do you still have your uniform?
No. That what I had was a dress uniform after I got out. And we had services or anything, I'd drop and some of the stuff that I had. But as far as carrying my old uniform, that wore out a long time ago.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
Just like I am. I'm wore out a long time ago.
Right.
Because I'm 96, 90, I will be 97 this year.
Well, you've got a sharp mind.
Yeah.
But that comes from leading a clean life.
Mm-hmm. Well, God's been good to me all these years.
Well, thank you again so very much for
Well, you're quite welcome.
for
If
all
I
that you've
helped
done.
you in some way, I'm glad.
Appreciate it.
And
Thank
you
you.
have a good day.
You too, sir. Well, what'd you think of that?
Well, I think you did a very good job of
Oh.
an old boy.
Oh, okay. We can talk about. Let's talk about the food in the.
The Army?
Yeah.
Well, there's at times it was a little scarce, but most generally it was always fairly good. And when you had, where they had regular services, yes, it was good. But sometimes you had to make believe it was what you were eating.
Anything in particular that you remember that you just didn't like?
Oh, nothing in particular. No, it would have to go back too many years, and I couldn't be telling you the truth. It might be make believe.
Right. Well, it's nothing like home cooking.
Yeah, nothing like home cooking. Mama's cooking.
Mama's cooking. Did you lose a lot of weight when you went in?
Well, I never was heavy. I put on more weight over the years here. Now, right now, I'd say my weight is about 290, somewhere along there.
Yeah. Well, that's good that you never had a problem with alcohol or anything like that.
Oh, I was never a drinker. My dad drank, but I've never been a drunk. When I was in the service, I'll admit that at one time or two I did sample a bottle of beer.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I'm just not a drinking man.
Smart. It's kept you sharp. And what year did you get married?
Oh, I got married in the summer after I retired, the following year.
Retired from the service?
I was out of the service.
retired
I was
from-
out of the service whenever I got married.
Oh, okay. Okay. Did any of your wife's brothers or family serve?
I had 8 of us children. My oldest brother and my youngest sister,
They served?
my youngest, it was my youngest brother and my oldest brother were the only two that didn't serve in the military.
Mm.
The rest of them were all guys that had served in the service. Every branch of the Army and Navy, they served in. Some or the other, the neighbors were there.
Do you keep up with current events on foreign policy and things like that now?
Oh, I'm interested in it because it's part of our life. If you don't be involved, there's something about this country. It's the greatest country in the world, And I wouldn't want to live anywhere but right here in America.
Mhm. Okay, well, thank you so much.
Well, you're
again for
quite
your
welcome.
time. Very.
I hope I did you some
Oh,
good.
you did. That was wonderful. Thank you so much for your stories.
Well, thank you, young lady, and this young gentleman here, all three of you. I appreciate you. You did a very good job.
Well, it was very great to meet you and hear your story. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being part of it, because I really appreciate it, having a background of saying, yes, I was in Army. I was part of the service.